My mother-in-law walked in on my husband and I on our wedding night, then played the victim the next morning. My mother-in-law, Eleanor, Ellie for short, has two sons, Mark and his younger brother, Brian. Brian is 23 for context. Ellie has always wanted a daughter, but unfortunately she never had the daughter she always dreamed of. When Mark and I started dating almost 10 years ago, she immediately accepted me as her daughter, and I was grateful for that. I didn't have a great relationship with my own mother, so having that positive female role model to look up to at that age was nice to have. Fast forward to last year, Mark and I were talking about getting engaged. Mark had a whole proposal planned out and a perfect date that meant something to both of us, but also wasn't obvious, so I would be surprised. Surprising me was something that was incredibly important to Mark. About 2 months before the date, Mark, Ellie, and I were sitting in my in-laws' house talking about the engagement. I jokingly asked when it was going to be, then started listing every day from the current day until I got to the day. I was saying things like November 2nd, what about November 3rd, November 4th? And I kept going like this for a while. When I finally got to the actual day, Mark kept his perfect poker face, but Ellie jumped in her seat and flashed a shocked look at Mark. I pretended to not notice and continued listing dates, but the damage was done. I now knew the date he had picked, and if he knew that I knew, he would be crushed. I tried to put the date out of my head, and on the day of, I decided to try my hardest not to think about Ellie's reaction to my guess, and pretended like Mark and I were just going out on a regular old date. I met Mark at his parents' house, and Ellie immediately hugged me and started saying, "You're finally going to be my daughter." If I didn't know before, I knew then, but I continued to play dumb. I excused myself to use the restroom, and when I came out, I overheard Ellie talking to Mark, loudly pawing at his pocket saying, "Let me see the ring one more time before she comes out." I just sighed to myself and went back to the bathroom, this time to loudly open the door to alert them I was coming so they could stop talking about the ring. Mark had worked so hard to make this surprise for me, and I couldn't ruin it for him. So when he did pop the question, I just had to act surprised to spare his feelings. To this day, I don't have the heart to tell him I knew for months that Ellie had ruined the surprise. Obviously, I said yes, and the wedding planning began. Mark and I had talked for years about having a non-traditional wedding and just having my friend who was ordained sign the papers for us. I'm very much an introvert, so having a day that I was the center of attention was not a priority for me. I would have been okay with just me and Mark signing some paperwork in our PJs, but unfortunately, where we live, it requires witnesses to be legally married. We discussed going to the courthouse, but Ellie freaked out. Instead, she insisted we needed a real wedding. Before I could even think about it or agree to it, she got her church to send over availability and messaged her distant relative, who's a retired priest, to see if he would perform the wedding ceremony for free. I had never met this person before, and I felt very uncomfortable having a stranger at my wedding. Little did I know. But he had agreed to do it for free, so it was hard to say no. Her church also agreed to let us use the space for a major discount, so again, it was hard to say no to a money-saving opportunity. I told Mark that if I was going to go through with this real wedding, then the guest list needed to be under 100 or I simply couldn't do it. He agreed, and we started making a list of who we wanted to invite. Me and him made a list of the most important people, and we listed about 50. I thought this was perfect, but Ellie lost it. She was horrified we didn't invite any of her aunts, uncles, cousins, or distant relatives. She insisted that it was her son's wedding and she should have a say in her son's day. Mark and I explained that I had never met any of those people, and many of those people Mark had never met, and we really didn't want people there we didn't know. Ellie threw a tantrum that it's her family and we shouldn't exclude them, and her tantrum was so unbearable that we agreed and added them to the list to shut her up. You know, the irony is that push and push and push to get like people invited, and then these people probably won't even show up. So annoying. Mark told me not to worry because he had a plan. We ended up picking a date that lined up with when all of her distant relatives go on vacation to Florida. So none of them could make it to the wedding. Because we invited them, many of them felt obligated to send us a card with a check slipped in. Oh, nice little hack for you guys. So it did actually end up working out that we invited them, but it really sucked. Ellie felt the need to control our guest list. We didn't have to plan a lot. 100 invites and only around 50 RSVP'd yes, so it was a low effort wedding. I'm not a very girly girl, so I just decided to order a dress online. The dress was actually a steal because no one even guessed it was only $50. They thought I spent at least $1,000 at a bridal shop. I was very proud of my online find, but Ellie was livid. Why am I not surprised? surprised. She told me I betrayed her and robbed her of the experience of taking her baby girl wedding dress shopping. I told her I didn't take anyone shopping, so she didn't miss anything. And it wasn't personal that I excluded her. I just don't enjoy shopping or dresses, and I wanted something quick and easy. She did not like that response. She demanded I send her pictures of me in the dress, and I said no. I was afraid she would show Mark, or worse, post it. I told her I wouldn't be sending pictures to anyone or even taking pictures of myself in it at all. She would have to wait for the day. Now for the wedding. When it came time for pictures, Ellie made herself the main character. We hired a family friend of mine who wants to be a photographer to do our pictures. She offered to do it for free, but we really believed that since she was providing a service, then she should be paid, and she was. Anytime the photographer posed us, Ellie would try to jump in front of her with her phone or call our attention to her, so we would look at her phone and not at the photographer's camera. Oh my goodness. So many nice group pictures were ruined because no one knew what camera to look at. If we refused to look at the camera, Ellie threw a tantrum and sometimes would physically push us back into place so she could get her shots too. She also stepped on my dress quite a few times in the process, and when confronted about it, stated that it wasn't her fault I picked something with such a long train. At the actual ceremony, Ellie was mostly behaved. She sat in the front row with her phone out the entire time, sobbing. But she sobbed silently and stayed in her seat, so I can't complain. Before the reception could even begin, Ellie posted pictures of the wedding and announced the wedding before I even got a chance to. Oh Lord. This was a small wedding, so not a lot of people knew about it. I really wanted the chance to announce it, but she stole that opportunity. And not only that, but she posted the worst pictures because no one was looking at her phone and no one was properly posed. During the reception, we had the cake set up in the corner. It was so tucked away that there was only really space for me, my husband, and a photographer while we cut the cake. We snuck back with the photographer to cut the cake and get pictures, and Ellie screamed, "Wait, I'm not ready!" while running across the reception hall trying to load up her camera. We ignored her and she missed the picture she wanted. She demanded the photographer move out of the way so we could reenact the cake cutting so she could get the shot. But why though? Is it because she wanted to be the one to share it on social media first? As soon as she got her picture, she took her seat at the sweethearts table, not where she was actually supposed to sit, and demanded to be served. My husband and I decided to just serve the cake and use that as our time to walk around and mingle with everyone. Ellie was she did not get to sit and eat the cake with her baby. We did not care. Finally, after the reception, we had a barbecue back at my in-laws' house. We did this to accommodate the fact that my family doesn't drink, and his family drinks enough for both families. My family got an free reception, then his got an filled reception. Ellie got absolutely shit-faced. Oh Lord. Oh goodness. She drank to the point of throwing up, was an absolute roller coaster of emotions, cornered guests to flirt and cry and joke with, and God only knows what else. I've never seen her that before. She was absolutely horrid. And for the whole barbecue, she stayed in her white dress, even after I changed out of mine. Hold on, she was in a white dress? How did I miss that? You didn't tell me that before. My husband and I had planned on spending the night at his parents' house in his childhood room because it was closer to the airport and we had to catch an early morning flight to our honeymoon. After the reception, I was absolutely drained. Very done with people and annoyed with Ellie's behavior all day, and I wanted to shower and go to bed. This is honestly my worst nightmare. The fact that your wedding day, like, afterward, you're not like just like in complete bliss and like not wanting the day to end because it was such a beautiful experience. That is heartbreaking. I'm so sorry to hear this happen to you. You didn't even want this wedding. Like, you didn't want the 50-person wedding. You would have been fine without it. That's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear. I'm a very modest person and I don't want to be in my PJs in front of other people. I don't wear anything super or anything like that to bed, but definitely not anything I'm comfortable wearing in front of my in-laws. Before showering, I made sure my in-laws were in bed. And when I got out of the shower, my husband made sure she was still in bed. I came out of the shower, we went to his room, and I began changing out of my robe and into my PJs. While we were changing, my mother-in-law burst through the door. My was completely exposed, so I grabbed the robe and wrapped it around myself. To my horror, my mother-in-law was not only in the room, but in the room with her phone camera open, trying to get us to begin opening presents because she wanted pictures and didn't want my family friend hogging all the pictures. I was absolutely horrified and couldn't even speak. I curled up in a ball crying and just wanted to die. Oh, you poor thing. My husband was also speechless and he was also changing and partially exposed. My mother-in-law was too to even notice this fact. I finally looked at my husband and I just said, "Help." I could barely get that word out. He grabbed a towel and yelled at his mother to get out of the room and not come back. He came over to me and held me until I was able to calm down enough to be able to speak. He promised me that she was and that anything she saw she wouldn't remember, but to this day, I still can't shake that violated feeling. She spent the next couple hours scream crying that we would treat her so horribly on her special day. Oh, absolutely not. No, she gotta go. It is one thing to be kind of overbearing and to like kind of insert yourself. You know, you can do those things out of love and out of like genuinely wanting a relationship and wanting to be involved. There are also plenty of mothers and fathers out there that couldn't be bothered to want to be involved. That's one side of the coin. But to barge in when someone is changing and to not apologize for that very blatant invasion of privacy and to then somehow play the victim in that situation, it's giving narc. Well, he was right. She was so drunk, she had no idea what she walked in on. The next morning, while we were trying to get out the door to catch our flight, she began crying about the way she was treated the night before. She said she was horrified that I would blow her off like that and not even look at her or speak to her. She couldn't believe I had made my own son yell at her the way he had the night before. Before walking out the door, I looked at her and I said, "We were changing. We were sorry you didn't get to photograph my last night," and walked away. She began screaming, crying again, saying I was making that up to be dramatic. Sure, I'm the dramatic one. But we ignored her and left for our honeymoon. A week in paradise, Ellie texting us every day, demanding pictures. Sometimes we would reply, sometimes not. Usually not. We enjoyed our Ellie-free week. She has just never been the same. From the second engagement was on the table, she became a mother-in-law from hell. One good thing did come from this. I found you, Charlotte. I was looking for monster-in-law support and I found your YouTube page, then Reddit. Never thought I'd be a Reddit poster, but this nonsense just needed to be shared. I hope you all enjoyed the read. I did enjoy the read. I'm really sorry that this happened, but I gotta say, you're being a little bit of a people pleaser. I'm gonna need you to stand up for yourself. I know this was posted a while ago, so if you ever see this, OP, you're totally valid for feeling the way you feel. Please do not be afraid to like set boundaries. She's not gonna like it. Like, be prepared for some backlash, okay? It's getting too far and you are not feeling comfortable anymore and you gotta stand on some business, okay? I care about you. I don't want you getting hurt anymore because this is bullshit. So OP updated in the comments that they're in the process of moving far away and hoping that cuts some contact. It inevitably will. I think that's a good thing. Thank you for sharing, OP. That was a delightful story.